Often you hear people say that there's no such thing as a good cop. Actually, that depends on how you want to look at it. Now, there are good cops. There are cops who are obviously good. Those cops you're going to see in this video, and you're going to get to see what usually happens to them once it is clear that they are good cops. These are cops who go above and beyond to show how committed they are to the job, to do the job the way it's supposed to be done. Then you also have cops who are good cops, but they also want to blend in. They don't want to be outcasts. So they do whatever they have to do to get along. These cops, you can argue that they're not really good cops, because if they were really good cops, they would do what many of the cops do, like the ones you're going to see in this video. Go above and beyond the call of duty to show that you're a good cop. So yeah, there is some argument there as to whether or not you can truly be called a good cop if you're willing to sit back and watch horrendous crimes committed against tax-paying citizens. There's a part of me that says, no, I kind of appreciate the fact that you're not going out there committing crimes against citizens. I mean, that is a good thing. But if you're willing to watch your partner or just a simple coworker commit crimes against people, you're not going to say anything, about it. You can't really be technically called a good cop, because if you were a good cop, you would actually reveal what your coworkers are doing if they're doing things that's illegal to American citizens or to anybody really, a visitor to the United States, anybody. Now, what you're about to see here in this first video, you're about to see how officers treat, let's just be straight up, white men, even when they're posing a threat to the community around them. This first man is actually going to have an assault rifle. Watch the way they treat this man, even though he's standing out in public with an assault rifle. Watch how calm they are. Watch how professional they are. Watch how friendly they are. Watch how they treat him even after he turns his weapon over. And watch how cavalier he is. You may have seen this. This video actually went viral.
Okay. And last you saw was right in front of the Dairy Queen?
Yes, I'm watching right now. She's down the street directly to the Dairy Queen. I can have somebody block down Court Street from the east and the west, please. Hey, partner, how you doing?
We're at Fire Channel and traffic.
Can you set that down real quick and talk to me? Place the weapon down on the ground, please. Place the weapon down on the ground. Place the weapon down on the ground, please. Place the weapon down on the ground. I just want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you walking around here. Scaring people, man. I understand your rights, and I'm not trying to violate your rights. What's your name, bud? What's that? Joe Schmo? Okay.
What you're about to see now is what I like to refer to as textbook police work. The police took a lot of risk, not only with their lives,
but with the lives and safety and health of the general public. Now, this happened in a residential area, and there were other people around besides the officers. Now, as you'll see in this video, this guy was very unpredictable. He had a handgun in his hand, and a handgun can be fired in any direction real quick. It's not like a rifle where it takes a little time to kind of swing it around or whatever. A handgun is a weapon that's very easy to just sporadically just fire off a round really quick in any direction. Okay, so they went completely out of their way to make sure that they came up with a plan where they could take this man alive. Now, maybe they understood that possibly he had a bad day at the office. You'll even hear a lady say that, hey, he's been having a tough time at the office. Well, hey, you know how it is when you have a tough day at the office, right? Well, obviously the police do. Now, I'm not saying that this shouldn't have happened like this, but what I am saying is that there was definitely a lot of risk taken to take this man alive. There was a lot of people around watching this go down. This wasn't some dark road where most of the people are inside and probably don't even know what's going down. Kind of like on the video that I'm going to show you a little later, but we'll get to that. I want you to watch this and watch everything they go through to take this man alive. They even called in a sharpshooter to take this man alive. They did end up firing a round at him. And believe me, that round they fired was not intended to take his life. Because you can best believe that the person they selected to fire that round, he's quite a marksman. They didn't just pick some random officer to fire this round.
Seen at Mission Bay's De Anza Cove today as police surrounded this armed man who refused to give himself up. Well, tonight he's hospitalized with a gunshot wound to his stomach. 10 News reporter Allison Ash looks at why police couldn't arrest him even after he was shot.
Watch as the man in the red shirt and shorts walks with his hands up to his car. He gets in, then emerges with this.
Gun!
Police officers immediately shout out a warning that he's armed, then take cover. Dave Street saw it as it happened.
He got out of his car, and he's waving his gun around, pointing all around everywhere. He pointed at the helicopter. Okay? So, then boom, was shot from the rifle.
The man went down, and for more than a half hour, police tried to convince him to move away from the gun.
And they couldn't approach him after they had him down because he still had the gun.
Finally, he got up from a seated position and walked to the shade of a nearby tree. Police slowly moved in and took him into custody, later telling reporters they'd been summoned to De Anza Cove by a caller who said the man had a weapon and wanted to kill himself.
Are you basically saying this guy was trying to commit suicide by cop?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that he basically rushed towards the officers with his weapon out, and the officer took action.
And do you know whether that gun was loaded?
Not at this point, no.
People who live in the nearby De Anza Cove mobile home park say he's a local.
I understand he is on the first row somewhere and had trouble with the office.
But nothing like the trouble here in the park, a place that was filled with people.
What you're about to see next is a video of a situation that's really starting to happen all too often these days, where someone calls the police for help and actually end up getting murdered, or a family member ends up getting murdered by the police. Now, you're going to see this young man, the one that's going to get shot. You can obviously tell that he's wondering what's going on. Why are the police pointing guns at us? He's thinking, look, we called you guys for help. Now, there's also some sort of language barrier, but that's absolutely no excuse. It's not a death sentence to not be able to speak English. And they end up shooting this guy. I mean, it's very clear. You're going to see in the video, he poses absolutely no threat. Zero. Nada. And they shoot him like he just pulled out a fucking rocket launcher. You know, and I think they were also a little agitated by the fact that, you know, he was, you know, I think they took it as condescension for him as a Mexican man or a brown man to be confused why cops have their guns pointed at them. I think that to many cops, they think that brown people should just accept that as a way of life. But anyway, check this out.
So now let's take a look at what happens when you reveal yourself to be a good cop. Now, this is not in all departments because there is a cultural thing too. In some departments, if you're a really bad cop, you're not going to survive because that's just not the culture. But in a lot of these departments, you will survive because they have that culture. In fact, they have a culture pretty much like the one that we're about to discuss right now, like the one this gentleman was in. Now, I'm not going to read the article, but I am going to put it in the description section, but I'll briefly tell you what happened here. Cop shows up on the scene of a call, and when he gets there, this gentleman has a weapon, and he has a gun. And the officer who shows up is an officer who's a combat veteran. He has experience in actual combat. He's not just, an ex-soldier. He's actually been in combat. So he's no coward. He's no stranger to pulling the trigger when you have to. And he shows up on the scene, and the guy actually appears to be wanting to commit suicide by cop. And he's actually telling the cop, just shoot me. Just shoot me, He's begging to be shot. The officer tells him, no, brother, I'm not going to shoot you. Now, I remember this video when it first came out. And when it came out, this officer, where is his name in here? Let me see. Oh, okay. Officer Stephen Motter. He was being praised. And at that time, police officers were going crazy. Every time you turn around, a police officer was shooting somebody, unloading their magazine in somebody. And I guess they felt like this guy raised the bar too high. I mean, this thing went nationwide. And you can see the officer really push the envelope in trying to preserve life. Unfortunately, the life that he was trying to preserve was not white life. Okay? Because as you just saw in previous videos, you could have a white dude, especially if he's a suburbanite. He could be pointing a gun. He could be out in public. He could, the public can be in danger. It's not an isolated situation. He can turn around at any moment and fire the weapon in any direction. And they will do whatever they have to do to preserve life. And even if they have to shoot him, they're going to bring out a professional marksman. And they're going to make sure they shoot him in a non-lethal manner. Because they understand what it's like, when Bill has a hard day at the office. Well, they fired this guy in short. They fired him. And he's in court. To be honest with you, I really don't know. I think he's still in court. It's been a while. I think he's still in court. And he's suing them. He took them to court, as he should. But they terminated the man because he chose not to shoot this man. Okay? So that's one good cop. And if you want to read it further, I'm going to put it down in the description section. Now, let's go to this person right here. Chicago cop who broke code of silence to report police drug gang faced daily retaliation. Okay. So this guy reported a law enforcement drug gang. Okay. And he's receiving, he's like a modern day Serpico. A lot of you young cats out there may not know who Serpico is, but Serpico is a guy who he was a cop who basically did what this dude is doing. He told about this huge corruption in his department. And matter of fact, Al Pacino played the role of Serpico in an old movie. So if you ever get a chance, check out Serpico. It's an old movie, but it's still a good movie. But let's look at this clip. See what this clip has to say here. I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen it. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Okay.
We begin today's show with an explosive story of two Chicago police officers who blew the whistle on a gang of their colleagues after they discovered they were demanding bribes from drug dealers in the housing projects of Chicago, arresting their rivals and blocking any internal investigations into their actions. The two whistleblowers, Shannon Spaulding and her partner, Danny Echeverria, spent 5 years working with the Chicago Police Department and the FBI in their case, only to be sidelined, outed as informants, threatened, and eventually forced out of the police department. In contrast, the named senior officials and cops who helped cover for their fellow officers were able to retire from the force with their pensions intact and face no punishment for their role in the cover-up. Spaulding says she has even received death threats. She and her partner both took stress-related medical leaves, and she's been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Their ordeal is chronicled in a 4-part investigation published by The Intercept called The Code of Silence. Part 1 is headlined, "In the Chicago Police Department, if the bosses say it didn't happen, it didn't happen." It's written by the award-winning Chicago journalist James.
Okay. All right, you get the idea. And look, these two officers, I thought it was one. I'd heard it was one. But look, this was back in 2016. And they were informing about a drug gang. I mean, come on, that's big. You inform about a drug gang. I mean, the drug dealers are supposed to be out real quick, fast. These people are supposed to be heroes, but they're not. So we move on to another officer. Now, this story I'm pretty familiar with. This was an officer who was actually called into the office. This is a white officer. He was called into the office because he wasn't reprimanding or giving tickets or arresting enough black males. They specifically told him black males. Now, it wasn't that he wasn't an active cop. He was. But they were saying that the ratio as far as ethnicity and color wasn't in line with what they were expecting. And he basically told them that, hey, look, I don't have any problem stopping a black guy. If a black guy does something that, gives me probable cause to stop him or question him or arrest him or whatever, I'll do it. And he actually got some audio. Let's see if we can get this to play. Like I said, I'm doing all this on the wing. Normally, I pre-screen all this stuff. I've heard this before, but it's been a while. So let's see if I think this is it.
Who commits the crimes? Who commits the crimes? Well, it's mostly teenagers, anywhere between the ages of 15 and 19. Often male, black, and Hispanics. Okay. Who are you stopping? Everybody. I stop everybody.
54 tags of 820.
Mm-hmm.
25 was a female tag.
Okay. Like I said, I stop everybody. I'm not targeting anybody. First of all,
you just told me who that guy does.
Yeah, I know that, but there's also other people who are committing violations as well. I'm not saying that there's not violations being made. Plenty of people that I write something to too are male black and male black. Not for the whole year. And I have. You told me for the whole year, I only stopped 2 male blacks for 820. No.
January 1st, August 20. 54 tags, 2 male blacks, 7 Hispanics, 7 other, 10 white, 3 Asians. So where are you targeting the perp that you just told me?
Well, like I said, if I don't see a perp jumping over the turnstile, what am I supposed to do to him? As I say,
these people are not going to pop.
How do I know that? I 50% chance. A female Hispanic that I stopped, and she said they did pop actually for a warrant, and I arrested her. Female Hispanic, the Hispanics that were supposed to be going out that are committing the crimes, the people that I do think that she was pop. Did I think she was gonna pop? I didn't put no thought into it. If you come up and you're getting and you'll come up a collar, I'm taking you in.
This is what I say. You describe to me who's committing the crimes, you're fully aware of it. We're not targeting those people.
I'm targeting everybody.
Who male blacks?
Whoever's out there. If I catch,
so you only saw 2 male blacks on the turnstile.
If you're saying that's what's in front of you, then yes, that's all I saw. There's 2 male blacks for the whole year jumping the turnstile. That's what you're saying is in front of you. I'm not disputing that. You're saying that's what I got there?
That's true. That's not disputing here.
Well, I'm saying, but we also talking Hispanics as well. I stopped a lot of Hispanics too.
7 male Hispanics. More than half are females.
And like I said, everybody's committing violations in front of me.
Okay. I haven't heard that guy was white, but that kind of sounded like a brother to me. But I don't know. It doesn't make any difference really. Kind of hard to believe though. They call a brother in there and talk like that. Hey, you need. I know you black, but you need to stop more black people. You need to be more suspicious of your own people just because they're your people. I don't know, but you never know. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's not important. The important thing is that they're making it clear that, hey, you need to stop more black males. And let me see, on the record, the men make reference to tab and summons that pop. Okay. Summons issued the transit violations as turnstile jumping, according to Birch. Popping refers to when summons leads to arrest. Okay, so that was the popping they were talking about. Okay. Yeah, so, look, this is what happens to good cops. So, yeah, there are good cops, but in many of these major departments, the question is, what are they going through? And when other good cops see what they go through, look, undoubtedly, they try to stay under the radar. So, when I was in the department and we were going through the academy, we were told that most officers would go their entire career without even having to clear their holster. I was in law enforcement for 8 years as a law enforcement officer. And out of that whole 8 years, I cleared my holster once, and that was simply as a precaution. And everything worked out fine. I didn't have to shoot anybody. In fact, tensions never even rise or anything like that. But yeah, that's 8 years. I only cleared my holster once. And like I said, we were told that most officers will go their entire year. So, look, it's a little suspicious when you see these officers and they get in trouble and you come to find out it's not the first time. Even the officer, the black officer that just shot the lady Damon, come to find out, he hasn't even been in the department that long, and he's got a ton of, complaints against him already. And he's a rookie. So it's not a question of, are there any good cops? The question is, how easy is it to be a good cop? How stressful is it to be a good cop? What happens to you when it is discovered that you are a good cop? All right, so we're going to wrap it up here, guys, and I'm going to talk to you guys later. And I'm going to drop all this down in the description section so that you guys can, look more into it, study it a little bit more closely. And look, if you like the video, as always, like the video, and please subscribe. And also, I'm going to drop a link down in my. I keep forgetting that I have a Facebook page called Citizens Against Bad Cops, the people against bad cops. So I'm going to. It's a Facebook page that's got tons of stories in there about police corruption and all of that. But also, I'm going to drop the Facebook group, Boycott the NFL Season 2017. That's slowly growing, it's picking up. But anyway, look in the description section. I'm going to drop all this down there, and I'll talk to you guys later.